Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. I've been talking a lot about embracing who you are, honoring your feelings, really, removing labels of your life and just being you and being true to yourself. And I want to add one more thing in here because I think it's really important to remember, and I know I have felt the same way. It's the fact that you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you live your life when you're living life on your terms. And this has taken me a long time, and it's still hard sometimes when you feel like you have to share why you're living your life this way, why you've chosen to go this way. When really the fact is it's none of the frickin' their business, Like live you, like do you, and let them do them, Like living life on your terms. But it can be sometimes people are very forceful. Sometimes people just don't understand us. And I have personally experienced that where I've had a family member write me a really bad letter. And it wasn't to me, it was to my husband. But it was about me and it was addressed to the family. So I got to see it. Anyways, so it was, sharing a past event, and it was their perspective of me and how I was doing things. And I'm like, that's not what happened on my side of things. And I got really angry and frustrated because I felt hurt that they didn't see who I was. And then I had to remind myself that it doesn't matter. I can't change another person's perspective of how they see me. I can't change how they think I am. The important thing is that I know who I am and that I show up for me. And regardless of how they think I am or even how they talk to other people about me, I have to let that go and be okay with who I truly am. And just know that side of that person is like, oh, you clearly see me a completely different way. And it can be hurtful and it can be hard and it can be challenging all at the same time. And then it's those moments in our life where we have to use it as a learning and a growth time for us, right? It's like really like, okay, well, this is who I am. And I love me. It's really taking that time to love yourself more through those times. And then knowing not to open that mail anymore, so it's setting boundaries with myself, right? So learning that person sees myself that way, don't love that. And I can't change that, right? I cannot change somebody else. We cannot change anybody else. We can't control how other people see us. And that can be hard to hear. The truth is, we just got to do our best from whatever, we have the meter stick of how we feel, right? We can't use somebody else's meter stick about if we've, they think we're not living our life the right way or, we didn't handle a situation the way they think we should have. At the end of the day, you have to be good with your own personal decisions. That doesn't mean we hurt people or we, be mean to people. But that means we also aren't mean to ourselves when people say nasty things or think things in a different way. I hope that makes sense. And so it comes down to we don't owe anybody an explanation of how we're living. But unfortunately, we also can't control how they see us, or how they react to things, or anything. The only thing is we can control how we react to something back. Now, when I read that letter, I'm going to be honest, I was hurt. I was very angry. I was very upset. And like I said, I was very hurt because I'm like, that's not who I am. And I really don't love when people don't get me, but I have to make, it's like that fine. It's one of the things I'm still working on. I'm going to be honest, where, I've said it before. I am a recovering people pleaser. So when somebody's not pleased with me, it can hurt sometimes. And then that's when I have to go, right, I need to love myself more here. I need to really honor who I am. I really need to honor my feelings. And I really need to remember who I am and that I am enough just as I am. So those are the moments that help me grow and become a better version of myself, or a deeper, more loving version of myself, really. where those moments that make me hurt gets to help me like open a wound so I can heal. It really just comes back from my past where, I get triggered. It's like, oh, you don't like me? And then like, I was like, no, why don't you like me? And, things like that. So it can really hurt. But then I have to remember like to detach myself from those ideas, because those ideas are somebody else's ideas of me, not who I am. Does that make sense? So we can get these ideas of things. And then anyways, so again, you don't owe anybody. Like there's areas in our life we just don't need to talk about with other people unless we want to. Share where you want. But just because people in your life or people are family or whatever doesn't make them to always be on the need to know, like, know everything about your life, or why you have to explain why, say we just talked about, labels, and, it was for labels for me is it's should versus what I want, feel. So for me, removing labels was more about like removing the shoulds out of my life versus the want and how I feel about things. And let's just say, for instance, it is, you've decided to go vegan or plant-based or whatever you decided. And then people are all over you like, why? You don't have to explain to anybody. It's like, that's what I've chosen to do. Like, people don't need to be all up in your business all the time. Just because they're family or whatever it is, they don't need to always know all your ins and outs. You don't have to explain yourself. Same with any of your dreams or goals. I know I've shared this before a long while ago, but before we moved to BC, so before we moved to BC, so across Canada, from Ontario to British Columbia, I remember having a conversation, like we were celebrating my oldest child's birthday. It's in December, and then people were complaining about the ice on our step, and it was like caked on, like we tried our best, we laid salt. Anyways, people were complaining, and I just like nonchalantly said, well, maybe we'll move to BC, where it doesn't snow. And then the uproar was like, rawr, like so negative, right? And I was like, okay, so now we know how you feel about what we might be doing. So I actually kept our goals of moving away because I knew what other people just didn't love that. So sometimes when we share our goals with others, they're not met with love. And then that can actually be something that prevents us from going after our dreams and our goals and things like that. So sharing, you don't have to share anything you don't feel comfortable sharing, because it's a part of who, like, it's you. And if you feel like you're trying to explain yourself and people aren't getting you, then maybe it's time to just kind of love yourself more and don't worry so much about the outer world of what people are thinking. And I say this with so much love because I just shared how hard it can be. People are going to judge us. People are going to be mean. People aren't going to understand us. And that to me is one of the hardest things. It can really, really hurt when somebody doesn't understand you. And I feel like that a lot, especially before we moved from Ontario. Now I feel like we're around a group of people that I feel more seen, more heard, and more understood in huge ways. Huge. So sometimes you just need to find your tribe. Find your beings that are more like you. And if that's not, like, I'm not saying move across the country or anything like that. I'm just saying, get to know yourself. And that way you don't have to try and explain yourself, because when you know who you are, you don't have to make excuses anymore. You can just be like, this is who I am. I'm showing up as me, like it or not. And this is me, right? Like, just own it. And the more you embrace who you are, the more you can love yourself. And then it doesn't matter what other people think. And in fact, like I said in the other episode, I think it was embrace who you are. The more you embrace who you are, the more you'll attract similar beings into your world. And that's what happened for me. The more I started to really embrace the parts of me that I was kind of keeping small or, was kind of ashamed of, the more I really owned it, the more things just kind of were flowing. And I really was inviting beautiful people into my circle and into my life. And it was really incredible. And it is really incredible. So just know that like your personal goals, your aspirations, those are your desires. You don't have to explain them to anybody. What, you're putting in your body and things like that, like just your diet and things like that. Heck, man, you don't even have to talk about your mental struggles with people in your life. Now, I do encourage you, if you are struggling, to talk to somebody that can help you. I know for me personally, I don't share a lot of things with family members because I know it's not going to be received the way I need it. So when you get to know yourself better and you get to know the people in your life, you can kind of gauge things and do things that feel right to you. Like, so when I'm having a bad day, I won't tell my mom I'm having a bad day because it's not received the way I need it. I don't have that support there. So I will share with people that can hear me talk. And, I have a really good friend. We go to the forest and we just walk and talk and let it all out in the forest. And that is what I need. Like, let it out, let it go, be done, So it's just really understanding who you are in this moment, and then being okay with that and not worrying so much about other people think. And if that's hard, because it is sometimes, just start small. So a big thing here that I'd like to really share about too is if you do have people in your life that always need you to explain things, or, really are like, well, why are you doing this? Or, they're kind of pushing for like your why, or like needing you to explain yourself. This is a good time to look at boundary setting, right? And it's not so like, well, I need to set a boundary with you here. It's saying, look, when we talk about this, it makes me feel, or you can say, I'd rather keep this to myself for now. I'm working on this myself, or whatever, feels right to you in those moments. But it's just saying, I would prefer to keep this to myself, or I keep this personal. It's trying to be in a positive frame instead of like, it's none of your business, right? Like, we can have this point where like people can just drive us up a wall and we get triggered and we're like, well, it's none of your business. And it's like, I'm not telling you. Instead, it's like, okay, trying to be firm, loving, but like, again, firm, right? But not like mean or frustrating either. Just, anyways, it's finding a good time to pick a time to have a conversation. You try not to have these boundary setting, these conversations around boundaries when you're frustrated. It's like, take a minute or 2 or 5 or a week, and then like breathe it out and get back to this person and share, that you'd like, this is your life, and having that conversation with them. And one of the things I'm reminded of too, where I had to really set a boundary, was with when my husband and I were getting married. We were planning our wedding. We were keeping it pretty low budget, but my grandma wanted to know a lot of things. And at first I would share, because who doesn't want to share ideas and stuff? But then it was always meant like, well, what about if it rains, or what if this? And I was like, okay, we got this under control, and like, anyway, so eventually I just stopped sharing. It's like, and when she would ask, I'd be like, hey, sorry. So when my grandma would ask, I would just say, oh, we have things, like, you'll find out it's a surprise the day of, you'll get to see it, and like, just do it in a loving way. So sometimes people want to know things, but then it can actually stress you out, because then they try to put in their own advice, their own ideas, their own stresses. And then that's not good either. And that's why it's so important that if you have some really big, lovely, but sometimes fearful dreams or goals, like for us, like moving across the country was very, very scary, at least for me. I can't speak for my husband, but for me, because I didn't want to move away from my family. I have a huge family, and I was like, I was afraid to move away. And, what if I'd like it out there? And just so many different things. And so if anytime I'd share with somebody, then my fear would be mirrored back and come back. And so I had to really keep that to myself. And it's just knowing when to share and when not to share. It's also having boundaries with yourself. So like I just said about the moving, I was really afraid. And then if I'd share, then, I'd have that as well from my family. So it's knowing when you're going to get triggered as well, or when your fear gets mirrored onto somebody else. So if you know deep down in your heart you want to do something and it's so personal and so like major and so important to you, it's really important not to tell the people that are going to poo-poo it, put you down, say you're not going to be able to do that, you're not smart enough, you're not, whatever it is. It's like, you can't do that. That's impossible. Sharing your ambitions and like your dreams and your hopes with people that just put you down, that's just going to be so hard for your dreams to survive that, right? So anyways, it's just, you don't owe anybody an explanation of how you live your life. So, same with your feelings. You don't have to like let your, your emotional state and your feelings. There's just so much in our life that we don't personally have to share with other people. Now, like I said, on the mental front, if there's something that's bothering you, I really encourage you to reach out to somebody to help you or journal it or something. But like, you don't have to tell everybody in your life about it if that's not what you want to do. Same with your past experiences, any traumas you've experienced, why you dress a certain way, like be you. This is what we've been talking about these past few weeks, is just own it, like own you, be you, embrace who you are. Also, when you do set boundaries, you don't have to explain them other than you could say like, it makes me feel, things like that. But really, a lot of the time, boundaries are set for your mental well-being, just to really help you. And like I said, I've even set boundaries with myself. And it's really important to understand those boundaries and saying no to things that that aren't good for you, that don't line up with who you are. And that is a boundary, even just saying no to something. Because it's really important to protect your time, your space, your energy, and you really don't owe anybody any explanation for your boundaries that you need to set. Also, you don't, there's just so much. So anyways, like, you don't have to explain who you are to people. The most important thing is that you know who you are. And it just takes time and patience to get to know yourself. And it's not like this end game either. It's a journey. Every day, every week, every month, every year, we're learning and growing. Like if you're taking time when you get triggered or when you have an emotion or a feeling, happen or something goes on and you take time to pause and reflect and to kind of work through that, you're growing. You're figuring out who you really are, what you like, what you don't like, what wounds you need healing, from your childhood and things like that. What's coming up for you. So as you're discovering who you are and you're embracing who you are, things will shift and change, and you don't have to explain that to others. That's your own personal journey. It's you, and that's who you are. And, like I said, it can be really hard when you don't feel understood. I've been there, and I still have people in my life that don't understand me. I don't see them very often, but they don't understand me. And I've had to make peace with that. Where it's like, okay. And then that's when I just got honor myself and who I am more. It's like, well, this is who I am. You might look at me this way, but this is who I really am. Or I've even had it where, I don't know if it was this episode. If it is, I apologize. I've repeated myself, but I feel like it's, I might have said it in a different episode, is I've grown throughout the years. I've been on this personal growth journey self-discovery, self-love journey, whatever you want to call it. I've been on it for over a decade. It's probably closer to 15 years now. Not quite, I don't think, but soon. And even if I was on a journey, we're all on a journey, but like when I really embraced myself and started loving myself more was about 15 years ago, or just shy of that. And people that I grew up with, or like even my family, might see me in a different light because they still see me who I was, in my 20s. But as I became a mom, and I'm a wife now, I've grown and it changed in so much. I became an empowerment coach, a yoga instructor. I've done some deep healing on myself. I've done some really fun learning, and I'm continuing learning. And because I've moved far away, though, my family doesn't see me every day. And they don't know who I am in this moment because I've changed, because I'm constantly changing. I'm learning new things about myself almost daily. Maybe not quite, but close. And, they see me differently than who I really feel I am. And it's just making peace with that, knowing that their idea is different than my idea. But at the end of the day, I need to know who I am, because it's me. It's who I am. And it's really getting to know myself better and honoring and just really embracing me and who I am. I hope that makes sense. So if you're feeling like you're always having to explain who you are, or your choices in life, or what you're doing, just know that you don't need to if you don't want to. And just really, it's the only person that you really need to let in on these secrets is you. Have those conversations with yourself and really just slow down and honor that part of you. And know that you can't change what other people, how other people see you or think about you or even talk about you. But at the end of the day, it's getting to know yourself better, loving yourself more, understanding, where boundaries need to be put, and just really loving yourself where you are and knowing that you are enough as you. And the only person that needs to know what's going on is you. Now, I will add this because I am in a relationship. I do have lots of conversations with my husband because we are a team. So I do like him to know where I'm at, because I feel like if we don't have these conversations, then we'll be two strangers on the street not knowing each other, right? So I do share a lot, but that's my own personal choice. He doesn't bug me for information. I share I share because I want to and because I choose to. And that's important to know. I'm not saying you don't share anything with anybody in your life, but you get to make that choice. You get to choose who you share your dreams with, who you share, your struggles with, what habits you want to create, what habits you want to let go of, whatever it is, you get to choose. So it's not about hiding or, locking yourself away and be like, you can't see anything. It's about you get to choose. You get to choose who you talk to about these things. And just remember to reach out to people that will support you and love you through it. I have told the wrong people before in the past things, and I've shared some of them in here, and it doesn't feel good when your dreams get squashed. So I really, encourage you to share with people that will motivate you or inspire you or just go, yes, you can do this, or cheer you on and things like that. And even possibly hold you accountable if that's what you need. So thank you so much for being here. I am so excited that you've come and you listened all the way to the end. Thank you for taking time for you. Thank you for listening. I am so grateful for you. And I'm just love that you're here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if you have any questions or any topics you'd like to talk about, please reach out to me. There's a link in the descriptions of this episode, and please share what you'd like to hear. I'm working on episodes for October, so I'd love to know, October and beyond, I should say, what you'd like to hear. I'm just working on some stuff, so yeah, I'd love to have your input, because what you need really does matter to me. Thank you again for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.